Matter is anything that has mass and takes up space. Mass is the amount of atoms or molecules something has. An atom is the smallest unit of matter that still has all of the properties of its element. A molecule is the result of two or more atoms bonding with each other. This can be the atoms of the same element like in oxygen, or it can be atoms of different elements like in water. To create molecules, atoms need to react with each other. When chemicals react in this manner, you end up creating an equation where atom number 1 and atom number 2 are added together to create molecule number 1. This equation can be broken down into reactants and products. Reactants are the atoms or molecules that are being used up, and the end result is the product which is made. When studying these chemical reactions, it is important to remember the law of conservation of matter and energy. Essentially, this law states that the total amount of matter in your reactants will be equal to the total amount of matter in your products. Photosynthesis is the process of converting light energy into stored chemical energy in the form of the sugar glucose. This chemical energy is stored in the bonds of glucose. Therefore, it can be said that photosynthesis converts light energy into glucose. Photosynthesis has two reactants, water and carbon dioxide. In order to undergo photosynthesis, an organism needs to have 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules. When these molecules enter the chloroplast of the organism, they are then converted into 1 glucose molecule and 6 oxygen molecules. This glucose can be stored to be used as energy later on, or it can be used to create more complex molecules. In plants, glucose that is used to create more complex molecules tend to create either cellulose or starch. Cellulose is used to make up different parts of the plant, whereas starch is normally used as storage for energy. Cellular respiration is the process of converting chemical energy into usable energy. For humans, the chemical energy we prefer is the sugar glucose. During cellular respiration, our bodies break down that glucose and transform it into ATP, a high-energy molecule. For cellular respiration to occur, oxygen must be present. This means that cellular respiration is an aerobic process. Aerobic means it requires oxygen. Therefore, in cellular respiration, 1 glucose molecule and 6 oxygen molecules are used up to create 6 carbon dioxide molecules, 6 water molecules, and 36 ADP molecules. All living things, including plants, undergo cellular respiration. The entire process of cellular respiration occurs in the mitochondria. Considering its function is to provide energy for the cell, the mitochondria has come to be known as the powerhouse of the cell. Carbon is an extremely important element on Earth. This is because all living things contain carbon. On Earth, carbon can be found in a variety of different forms and places. It can be found in the air that flows through our atmosphere. It's also found in the makeup of the rocks and soils of our geosphere. Carbon can also be found in the waters that make up our hydrosphere, as well as throughout the living organisms that make up our biosphere. The activities of all the biotic and abiotic factors of these 4 spheres assists in recycling carbon from one sphere to another. Therefore, things that release carbon are called carbon sources and those that absorb carbon are called carbon sinks. The movement of carbon throughout the 4 spheres is called the carbon cycle. For example, when fossil fuels are burned, carbon dioxide moves from the geosphere into the atmosphere. That carbon dioxide is then used by a plant in the process of photosynthesis to create the carbon-rich molecule, glucose. This moves that carbon from the atmosphere into the biosphere. That plant is then eaten by a rabbit who uses the glucose to perform cellular respiration, moving the carbon from the biosphere back to the atmosphere. This cycle endlessly repeats, and is one of the reasons that life is able to be supported on Earth.